Curious, observant, we all have an ingrained expectation of how progress should look. We imagine a straight, unimpeded line moving steadily upward, whether we are building a career, learning a skill, or creating something entirely new. Biology shares this exact same structural blueprint. If you look at a newly planted seed, its genetic programming is remarkably singular. It is designed to push its first shoot directly toward the surface to find sunlight. But a completely unobstructed path to the light requires perfectly clear, ideal environmental conditions. When a system grows rapidly without encountering any resistance, it doesn't have a reason to reinforce itself. Because it never had to struggle, that system remains structurally fragile. It might look tall and successful on the surface, but it is entirely unprepared for the reality of environmental volatility. And that is exactly why hitting a sudden barrier is so jarring. Upward momentum comes to an immediate, violent halt against an unyielding obstacle. The standard reaction to a total blockage is to fight it. We expend every ounce of our remaining energy pushing against the immovable object, hoping sheer force will break it, which inevitably leads to complete exhaustion. This period of darkness forces the organism into a necessary pause, providing the time required for structural adaptation. A total blockage forces a biological and psychological pivot. Hitting a lull is a strict prerequisite for building the architecture needed to survive much larger, catastrophic threats down the line. When moving upward is physically impossible, the system has to explore the only space left available, the vast, unseen territory beneath it. Notice how the organism deliberately routes its resources downward, diverting energy away from the blocked chute to construct a rapidly expanding root network. The system taps into hidden underground aquifers, drawing vital water back up to bypass the original obstacle. The organism bypasses the barrier by constructing an internal foundation so robust that it simply outgrows the constraint. This biological mechanism maps directly onto human psychology, especially in high-stakes environments where performance is everything. Imagine a catastrophic structural failure occurring right in the middle of a routine. An immediate, unexpected environmental block halts the performance in its tracks. You would expect panic, but an individual with a deep, pre-built foundation of skill processes this differently. They seamlessly improvise, adapting the routine in real time because their capability extends far beyond a single, rigid plan. Sudden environmental failures do not dictate our response. They merely reveal the depth of our internal preparation and the unseen architecture we have already built. Building this human root system requires practical, daily application. Just as a seed finds strength in the isolated earth, we find our subterranean equivalent when we step away from external noise. This deliberate solitude provides the quiet needed to examine our internal state without distraction. When we sit quietly with negative emotions like fear and doubt, we perform a kind of psychological alchemy. Rather than actively fighting these feelings, we neutralize them through warm acceptance and processing. This quiet internal processing is the human equivalent of tapping into deep underground aquifers. It creates the vital emotional reserves required to face extreme adversity. All of this unseen work is eventually validated by an extreme external crisis. A threat arrives that tests the structural integrity of the entire ecosystem. Systems that took the easy path, growing quickly without facing any resistance, fail immediately. Lacking deep roots, they are instantly uprooted by the sudden, intense stress. Meanwhile, the system that was originally blocked by the rock stands completely unyielding against those exact same forces. It reveals a profound paradox. The obstacle that initially felt like an agonizing constraint was actually the architectural teacher that engineered the system's survival. When you find yourself hitting a massive barrier in your own life, feeling frustrated and entirely in the dark, recognize that this is vital foundational work. Feeling trapped by external circumstances demands an urgent increase in self-awareness. It is an invitation to look inward, rather than exhausting yourself against an immovable wall. Trust the latent internal energy that resides within you. It is specifically designed to adapt to these constraints and route your potential toward a far more stable configuration. The system that endures is the one that used its confinement to engineer a structural advantage. A deeply cultivated foundation transforms a temporary blockage into a source of permanent, unshakable resilience.